Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a look inside a really crucial part of modern medicine,
We are indeed.
the global market for ureteroscopes, specifically looking at 2025. We've got a recent market research report here. It's our roadmap for today.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission really is to pull out the key insights for you, understand what's driving this field.
Exactly. And just so we're all on the same page, a ureteroscope is essentially a tiny, very specialized kind of endoscope.
Like a small tube with a camera.
Precisely. It lets doctors see inside and operate within the ureters, those tubes connecting the kidneys and bladder. And this report, it paints a picture of a really dynamic market.
Dynamic and expanding, it seems. For 2025, the projection is, USD 251.6 million globally.
That's the figure.
But that's not the whole story, is it?
Yeah.
The interesting part is the growth expected beyond that.
That's right. It's not static at all. The forecast shows the market climbing to USD 1935.4 million by 2033,
Wow, okay.
which, when you calculate it out, means a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of about 5.60% over that time.
So 5.6% average growth per year. That tells you it's sustained expansion, not just a quick jump.
Definitely. It's a solid, steady climb.
Okay, so a billion-dollar-plus market, clearly growing. This deep dive is really about figuring out why. What's fueling it? Where's the growth happening? What are the key trends?
So let's start with that big picture. As we said, USD 1,251.6 million in 2025, heading towards nearly 2 billion, 1935.4 million by 2033.
Driven by that 5.6% global CGR.
Exactly. And the report uses 2024 as the base year, looking back at historical data from 2021 through 24.
And forecasting out to 2033 gives us a pretty solid timeline.
It does. So those global numbers set the scene.
Right. Now, where are the hotspots? Where's the action, geographically speaking? North America seems like the place to start. It's a big chunk of the market right now.
It is, yeah. North America holds the largest share, actually over 40%. That's about USD 463.09 million projected for 2025.
Over 40%. Okay. But the growth rate?
It's more, let's say, measured. The CAGR there is forecast at 4.1% through 2033.
So still growing, but maybe a more mature market compared to others.
That's a good way to put it. Steady, but not quite the explosive growth we might see elsewhere.
And within North America, I assume the U.S. is the dominant player.
Absolutely. The U.S. market alone is looking at USD 365.38 million for 2025, with a 3.9% CAGR.
Okay.
Canada and Mexico are smaller, of course, but still significant contributors. Canada's around USD 55.57 million with a 4.9% CAGR.
A bit faster growth there.
Slightly, yeah. And Mexico is at USD 42.14 million with a 4.6% CAGR.
Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe, also a major piece of the pie, right?
Yes, Europe's significant too. Represents over 30% of the global market. That's about USD 362.96 million in 2025.
And the growth rate there?
The overall European CAGR is projected at 4.7%. But what's interesting is the variation within Europe.
Okay, so who are the key countries to watch?
Well, the UK is showing strong growth, USD 60.98 million market size and a 5.5% CAGR. That seems linked to a higher demand for minimally invasive procedures.
Makes sense. Germany?
Yeah. Germany is actually the largest market within Europe at USD 71.87 million. Their CAGR is 4.9%, likely boosted by technological advancements in their medical device sector.
Okay.
Then you have France, Italy, Russia, Spain. They're all in that sort of USD 30 to 56 million range.
And their growth rates?
More moderate, generally between 3.7 and 4.1% CAGR. Consistent, but not quite as fast as the UK or Germany.
It's also interesting to see some of the smaller European markets showing decent growth, too.
Exactly. Countries like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg. Their market sizes are smaller, sure, maybe $4 to $11 million, but their KGRs are pretty robust, between 4.3 and 5.0%. It shows ureteroscopy is really becoming standard across various healthcare systems.
And the rest of Europe combined?
That accounts for about USD 50.81 million, growing at a 3.4% CAGR.
Okay, so North America and Europe are the current leaders by size. But the report really highlights Asia-Pacific as the growth engine, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. APAC is where the really dynamic expansion is happening. It holds around 23% of the market now, about USD 300.38 million in 2025.
But the growth rate is the kicker.
It is. The projected core DR for APAC is 8.3% between 2025 and 2033. That's significantly faster than North America or Europe.
8.3%, that's huge. What's driving that? It can't just be population, right?
No, it's a mix of things. You've got rising incomes, especially a growing middle class with better access to healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Governments are investing more in modern medical infrastructure, and, there seems to be a quicker adoption of some of these advanced, minimally invasive techniques compared to maybe some more established markets.
So which specific countries are leading this charge in APAC?
China's the biggest market in the region, naturally. USD 126.16 million with a strong 7.8% AGR. Rising purchasing power is a big factor there.
All right. And India?
India's market is smaller currently, around USD 30.04 million, but its growth rate is phenomenal, a projected CAGR of 10.2%.
10%? Wow, that's the highest we've seen.
It is. Reflects rapidly improving healthcare infrastructure and access. Then you have South Korea, about USD 36 million market, 7.4% CAGR. The report links some of that to increased spending on personalized medicine, which might drive demand for better diagnostics.
Interesting connection there. What about Japan? Australia?
Japan's a sizable market too, USD 41.45 million, growing at 6.8%. Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, all showing strong growth as well. CAGRs of 7.6, 8.6, and 8.1% respectively.
Singapore at 8.6, that's very high too.
It is. And Southeast Asia as a whole is another key growth area, 9.1% CAGR on a nearly USD 20 million market base. The rest of APAC is also clipping along at 8.1%.
Okay, so APAC is definitely the region to watch for rapid growth.
Right.
Let's shift focus now to South America. Smaller market, but still growing.
Yes, South America makes up just over 5% of the global market. Total size around USD 47.56 million in 2025, with a respectable CGR of 6.3%.
And within the region, Brazil.
Brazil leads, yes. USD 20.36 million market, growing at 6.9%. The report mentions some potential links to factors boosting demand for effective treatments, maybe things like hospital-acquired infections needing better diagnostics, though that link needs careful handling.
Understood. Argentina.
Argentina's smaller, about USD 8 million, but showing strong growth at 7.2% CAGR.
It's fascinating how these regional factors play out. Okay, Middle East and Africa. Smaller shares currently.
They are. The Middle East is about 2% of the global market, Africa around 1%, but both are showing solid growth potential.
Tell me about the Middle East first.
Projected market size of USD 50.06 million in 2025, with a pretty strong CGR of 6.9%.
Any standout countries?
Saudi Arabia and the UAE are significant markets, both with KGRs over 7%. Qatar's interesting smaller market, about USD 4 million, but its high per capita income helps drive a 6.4% CAGR. Turkey's similar in size, but has a higher CGR of 7.5%, possibly linked to its developing healthcare services sector.
Okay, and Africa.
Africa's looking at USD 27.54 million in 2025, with a 5.9% CAGR overall. There's definitely future potential there.
Key markets within Africa.
South Africa is the largest currently, about USD 9.7 million, growing at 6.8%. Nigeria is smaller, maybe USD 2.2 million, but growing at 6.1%, driven by a need for more efficient treatment options. The rest of Africa combined makes up the bulk of the market value, though.
Got it. So geographically, the big picture is North America and Europe lead in size now, but APAC is where the fastest growth is happening by far.
Precisely.
Okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the actual devices. How is the market segmented by product type?
Right. You basically have flexible ureteroscopes, and that includes both the older fiber optic and the newer digital types, then semi-rigid and rigid ureteroscopes.
And which type is leading?
Flexible scopes dominate the market in 2025, and interestingly, they're also projected to have the fastest overall CGR growth.
That makes sense, given the push towards minimally invasive procedures, what makes them so advantageous.
Well, their flexibility gives them great maneuverability, often deflecting 180 degrees. This can mean shorter hospital stays, maybe more patient comfort. And there's a big trend towards single-use digital flexible scopes now. They offer high-def images, potentially safer procedures by avoiding cross-contamination issues, and are efficient for things like stone removal.
Okay, single-use digital flexible. But the report also said rigid ureteroscopes are expected to see very fast growth, too. That sounds a bit contradictory.
Yes, that's a good point, a key nuance. While flexible scopes have the biggest slice of the market and are growing fast overall,
Right.
the rate of growth predicted for the rigid segment is also expected to be very high.
So how does that work? Why are rigid scopes growing fast if flexible is the trend?
It likely comes down to specific applications. There have been advancements in rigid scope tech, too, improving their handling and stability. For certain procedures, a rigid scope might still offer better control, potentially leading to better outcomes or fewer complications. So they're growing rapidly within their specific niche uses, even as flexible scopes grow overall.
Okay, that clarifies it. Different tools for different jobs. And both are seeing advancements and increased use. Now, what are these scopes being used for? The applications.
Primarily split between therapeutic and diagnostic uses. Right now, the therapeutic segment is dominant.
Mostly kidney stones, I imagine. Urolithiasis.
Exactly. That's the main driver. The sheer number of kidney stone cases globally is rising, and patients and doctors increasingly prefer minimally invasive treatments like ureteroscopy.
Makes sense. And the diagnostic side.
That's actually the segment predicted to grow the fastest.
Really?
Why is that? Technology improvements. Better imaging means better accuracy. So doctors are using ureteroscopy more often now to evaluate a wider range of urinary tract issues, not just treat known problems. Plus, there's more awareness of its diagnostic capabilities.
Okay, so therapeutic use leads now, but diagnostic use is catching up fast in terms of growth rate. Let's talk end users. Who's actually buying and using these scopes?
The main segments are hospitals, specialty clinics, ambulatory surgical centers, and diagnostic imaging centers.
And hospitals dominate.
As of 2023, yes, hospitals were the biggest end user segment. That's down to, established referral patterns, having the specialized staff on hand, and often reimbursement structures favor hospital settings.
Less infrastructure investment.
Right. Expanding hospital facilities, adopting new tech, general investment, it all supports their dominance.
But the report flagged another segment for high growth, didn't it?
It did. Specialty clinics are projected to see the fastest growth during the forecast period.
Why specialty clinics?
Several reasons. We're seeing more specialty urology clinics popping up. There's more private healthcare spending globally. And there's a huge demand for outpatient procedures, minimally invasive stuff.
Which clinics are often set up for.
Exactly. They can sometimes be more cost-effective for these types of procedures. As healthcare delivery shifts towards efficiency and convenience, specialty clinics are really stepping up their role.
So hospitals lead now, but specialty clinics are the ones expanding quickest. Okay, let's pull back again. What are the big picture market dynamics? The main drivers pushing this whole market forward?
Well, number one is probably the overall rising demand for minimally invasive surgery across the board in medicine. People want faster recovery, smaller incisions.
Sure.
Then specifically for ureteroscopy, you have the increasing incidence of kidney diseases generally, and as we mentioned, the growing number of urolithiasis or kidney stone cases. More cases means more need for treatment.
Are there things holding the market back? Restraints.
Yeah, a couple of key ones. The procedures themselves can be quite expensive. That high cost can be a barrier, especially in healthcare systems with tighter budgets. And, ureteroscopes aren't miracle cures for everything. There are still limitations to what conditions they can effectively treat.
Okay. Now what about trends shaping the future?
Definitely the technological advancements, especially in those digital flexible scopes we talked about, better image quality, more efficiency.
Right.
The report also mentions, sort of broadly, the rising rates of other chronic conditions like GI disorders and cancer. While not directly urology, this overall rise contributes to the general growth and innovation in all kinds of endoscopic technologies.
That provides important context.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the companies involved. Who are the big players in this space? It sounds competitive.
It is highly competitive. You've got a mix of major global companies and some strong regional players, too. But the key names that really dominate are companies like Olympus Corporation, Richard Wolf, Karl Storz, and Pentax Medical. They have strong positions because of their wide range of products, global reach, and ongoing R&D.
And there's been some recent news involving these companies.
Yes, quite a bit happening. Just this past April 2024, Olympus got FDA clearance for their first single-use flexible ureteroscope system. It's called Renaflex.
Ah, another single-use scope entering the market.
Exactly. It's a big move, addressing those reprocessing and contamination concerns. And also in April 2024, Cook Medical launched their single-use flexible scope, the Send, in the U.S. and Canada.
So that single-use trend seems Really significant.
It definitely looks like a major focus area. And looking back a bit further, in February 2022, Carl Storzi did something interesting. They partnered with the IFC Africa Medical Equipment Facility
What's the goal there?
to help make essential medical equipment, presumably including things like ureteroscopes, more accessible and affordable for healthcare providers in parts of Africa. So expanding access.
So we're seeing tech innovation, like single use, and also strategic moves to expand market reach.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up. What are the absolute key takeaways for you from this deep dive?
Well, first, the global ureteroscope market is big business, well over $1 billion, and it's growing steadily. That growth is really powered by the demand for minimally invasive surgery and the unfortunate rise in kidney stone cases.
Geographically.
North America and Europe are the current market leaders in size, but Asia-Pacific is where the truly rapid expansion is happening. And watch the specialty clinic segment that's poised for the fastest growth among end users.
And the tech.
We're seeing advancements in both flexible and rigid scopes, but the move towards single-use, especially digital flexible scopes, is a huge trend within a very competitive landscape led by those big global players.
Digging into those APAC numbers, here's something that jumped out at me. Singapore. It's not the biggest market by value, obviously, but its projected CAGR was 8.6%. That's really high, even within the fast-growing APAC region. Sometimes that kind of super fast growth in a smaller, advanced market can be like an early signal, you know, maybe pointing to specific demands or adoption patterns worth tracking.
That's a really interesting point. It absolutely highlights that even within broad regional trends, you get these fascinating country-level dynamics. You can't just paint the whole region with one brush.
Exactly. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. What are the bigger implications of this shift towards single-use ureteroscopes? Think about the cost. Does it go up or down overall? And what about the environmental impact of disposable medical devices?
Good questions.
And also, as this tech keeps getting better and better, where else might ureteroscopy be applied in the future? Could we see totally new uses beyond what we've discussed today? Lots to think about there.
Indeed. This market is really a fascinating window into wider trends in medical tech, healthcare needs, and innovation. Definitely worth keeping an eye on how it all evolves.